Welcome to another daily dose of greatness quest. Today we're going to talk about publishing your book and making it a #1 bestseller. If you've ever wanted to become a #1 bestseller, we're going to talk about how you can do that on today's call. I'm going to break down some of the secrets for you, so we'll call this bestseller secrets. I know you're going to love the show.
Cowboy.
Welcome to a daily dose of greatness quest with your host, Trevor Crane, my daddy. He is going to help you take your life and business to the next level.
Here I come to save the day.
Trevor Crane here, 11-time #1 best-selling author and the founder of Epic Author Publishing, coming to you live every day so you can plug in every day to build your ideal business so you can live your ideal life.
If my daddy can do it, then anybody can do it because he's a weirdo.
You're supposed to make me sound cool.
All right, welcome back. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because it shifted everything for my wife and I. If you don't know this story already, we 10x'd our income when we finally published our first books. And I say we, my wife and I didn't write the same book. We each helped one another with our books, but she wrote her book, I wrote my book. And then we got the advice I'm about to give you now, and we got a little bit more advice. I hired a mentor to help me actually get this stuff done, and I was part of a community and whatnot to support me. So when I got scared and I didn't think I could, that I could follow through and actually finish. But suffice it to say that within the first 12 months after we published our books, we 10x our income. So I always like to take a moment with that and have you get real with what that would mean for you. So if you can take a 0 and put it behind the amount of money you made last year or the most money you've ever made, and you look at that number, like let's say the most you've ever made is $100,000, and you put a 0 behind 100,000 and you say, well, that would be $1 million. What that would mean to you, or maybe you've made $1 million and you put a 0 behind it, and that turns into 10 million. Like when you actually say that and think about it and what that would mean to your life and to your family, I think it makes a significant difference. And so that's what happened when we published the right book. And then we understood the plan and the system to go ahead and monetize things behind it. So that's really important. That's actually the whole mission behind Epic Author Publishing, is to not just help you get your message out there to the world, but to monetize your message. And so if you want any help with that, you can always go to epicauthor.com and you can check out our most recent webinar and training where I show you how to go from blank page to bestseller in 90 days or less. But let's jump into the how to become a bestseller, because this is something I didn't know how to do until I knew how to do it. And I learned the secrets from my mentor, and he broke it down in a really simple process. So I'm going to try to do that for you today and not have it take freaking hour. Like we need to do this really quick, like in 5 minutes or less. So you can imagine that I'm not going to cover every detail of component, but I want to give you the gist so you can figure out how to do this on your own, or you can go ahead and get our assistance with this so you can have an epic book launch, which is what we want you to have. We want you to have an epic business. We want you to have an epic impact in people's lives. So when it comes down to this, though, like think about what it means to become a #1 bestseller. Just think about that for a second. And I'll give you another analogy that I think is really easy for you to frame this. As a lot of times people will ask me, like, what does it mean to become a #1 bestseller? Like, what are the rules? Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you know that I am or he is or she is? Like, how does one become one? So think of a race. And so when I was a little kid, I loved to race. My dad would say to me when I was growing up, like, yeah, Trevor, let's race. And I just loved to race. I conned my daughter into doing the same thing. And it could be racing to put your bathing suit on, racing to the car. And I like to play the game. I like to play games. And so I think kids do too. And I think there's parts inside of us that like to do that. And that's all really a #1 means. Like if you win the race, you became a #1. You're first place. If you come in second place, you're second. If you come in third place, you're third. And really, if you don't win, you lost. What was that movie with Ron Burgundy? Not Ron Burgundy. It was Will Ferrell though. And his dad had said in that racing movie, gosh, I can't remember, Talladega Nights, I think that's what it was called. And his dad gave him advice and said, if you're not winning, you're losing. Or gosh, I'm actually messing up the quote. That was a really funny quote. I'll find that for the quote for the day, because that was a really, really funny quote. But at any rate, you either come in first place or everything else you lost. So the question is, when you're going to become a #1 bestseller, what race are you in? Like, that's really the question, because when I was a little kid and it was racing my dad to get my bathing suit on or get to the car with my daughter, I'm like, hey, honey, first one to the car wins. And then you've got more formal races that happen in high school, or they happen in college, or they happen in a world championship, whatever it is. So the question is, in the bestseller race, what race are you entering? And I've got friends of mine and mentors of mine who have become #1 New York Times bestsellers. And that is like the fastest race in the world. That is the biggest race in the world when you're thinking of becoming a #1 bestseller. And you know some of the names that have done this, right? You know J.K. Rowling, you know Tony Robbins, I'm sure you know a whole bunch of other names that reach the top of this list. Now the cool thing is you can become a #1 bestseller by entering other races. And one of the best ones to do this for you and I is to go ahead and start with Amazon. Now Amazon is, again, a phenomenal, it's the biggest bookseller in the world right now. They're the biggest search engine on the planet for people who are searching for solutions to problems and who want results, and for people who are searching are the biggest search engine on the planet for people who like to buy stuff. They go there specifically trying to spend money, and they put in a little search bar things that they want, problems they want solved, and results they want delivered. So they get to find your book. It is the best place for you to begin for your #1 bestseller campaign. And so I've got friends of mine and mentors of mine who have become #1 New York Times bestselling authors, and several of them have advised me that this is not the best place for you to start. And it is really cool to want to aspire to win the biggest race in the world when it comes to becoming a #1 bestseller. But you can also become #1 and win at your high school track, and you can win at college, and you can win in your lane. Like, why not become a #1 bestseller in your lane? So when it comes down to winning the race, when it comes down to becoming a #1 bestseller, you just now need to know what race to join, and then what are the rules that have to come into play so that you sell more books that day than anybody else in your lane. That's all it is. When you're a #1 bestseller, you have sold the most number of books in your lane. And we'll talk about New York Times, and then we'll shift to Amazon. So my friends that have tried to go for the New York Times bestseller lane, one of the challenges is you've got to sell like somewhere between 20,000 and 50,000 books. You have to sell them within a certain period of time. The rules need to happen that you have to sell them in like 4 or more cities, and you have to sell a certain number of books. It's got to beat everybody else in your category on New York Times. And then typically this is something that costs a significant amount of money. Like, it can cost, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of millions of bucks. Now, if you're already in a position where you're a massive influencer and you can sell 50,000 books standing on your head, and you can sell them in multiple cities around the country, you can potentially go after a #1 New York Times. And depending on the level of your brand, you can go ahead and want to do that. You could say, hey, I'm Tony Robbins and I'm Oprah Winfrey, and I need to go ahead and sell a book on the New York Times bestseller list. Or you've got a gigantic multi-million-dollar list, and that's what you want to target. So that's totally possible for you to go ahead and target. But my advice for you is to go after the race on Amazon. And you can do that by picking your categories. Now, all this means is that you have to go on Amazon and find the categories that are appropriate for your book and your business and your brand, so that when people search for you, it's relevant. You don't want to pick categories that have absolutely nothing to do with your book. So you want to pick categories that you can win the race in. And when we do this with Epic Author Publishing, there are ways to work the system with Amazon where, instead of getting their normal like 2 or 3 categories, or like the most you can do, maybe I think the most you can pick on your own are 4. we understand the process of trying to get you 10, 20, 30 categories so you have an epic book launch where not only do you get a number one in one or two categories, but you're better positioned so you can get a number one in multiple categories and often multiple countries. We like to do a number one bestseller campaign where you're going in multiple countries and then you sell your book all around the world. And what a lot of people don't know is that when you become a number one bestseller and you properly position your book with the right keywords and in the right categories, and a whole bunch of people go and buy your book on a given day, because that's the rule with Amazon, is every day and every minute and every hour, they're constantly calculating who's the best seller in these categories. When you are a hot new release and when you are a number one bestseller and a whole bunch of people are buying your book in like a short window of time, like in a day, which is what we typically have you target, not like in a week or a month or something like that, because on Amazon they're calculating this every hour, like the little thing goes through. Their algorithm crunches the numbers and they say who's selling the most books right now. And that's where you become the number one bestseller. But not only that, what Amazon will do is they will promote you. They will say, oh my gosh, this a lot of people are buying your book right now. And they will try to find other people who like stuff like your keywords and like your book, and they will promote you to them. Like, think about that. If you only get 2 or 3 categories for your book, they will promote you to 2 or 3 categories. If you're only in one country, they're only going to promote you in one country. But if you can get your book in 10 or 20 or 30 categories, and you can maximize your keywords, and you properly title your book and subtitle your book and describe your book, and you do all the things that make it easy for Amazon to know how to promote you, they can promote you to maybe hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people, depending how much play you get with your book. And this is something people don't know. They'll oftentimes just put their book up on Amazon. They don't select their categories. They don't learn how to optimize their profile and optimize their book and how they describe it so that Amazon can find it. And they miss all of that free promotion with their partnership with this billion-dollar company. Okay, so that's just a little bit of one of the reasons why you want to probably get some help to make this happen. But here's what you do to actually get it to happen. Because if my company helps you properly position and optimize your book on Amazon so that it's positioned to do that, you got to make the sales. And so as we just discussed, all it means is that you win. In order to win the race, you got to make more sales than someone else. So here's what we do. I already told you that you're trying to target like one day to get people to go buy your book. And on that book, you want to get hundreds of people to go buy your book on that day. Now, how do you make that happen? Well, that is a part of my promotion that I do with people for like 90 days. Like, I work with you to turn your book into your most powerful marketing tool with a whole bunch of joint ventures and with a whole bunch of marketing that you do that precedes your number one campaign so that you're prepared for it. You want to, it's like getting in shape before you go run the marathon. And so you want to practice. You want to run around the block a little bit. You want to do some homework. You want to prepare. But basically, you get everybody to go buy your book in that 24-hour window. And we promote, and then you get joint venture partners and everybody saying, hey, and you just say, hey guys, on July 4th, I'm going to go ahead and publish my book. Can you go get it? And you want to tell everybody and their mother to go get the book on that day. And then we will double down with an Epic Author Publishing when we help you like upsell stuff and like bonus stuff. So we'll typically say, hey, bonus people, like bribe them, give them other cool stuff to go buy your book on that given day. Because if they don't buy your book on the day that you are running, what will happen is you might lose the race. Someone else might sell more books that day. And so it might be your mom says, oh yeah, I can do it, but I can't buy it today. I'll buy it on Friday. And so she loves you. She wants to support you, but it's an inconvenience for her to buy your book on the given day that you need it. And she's like, well, it really doesn't matter, right? We can just buy it. I can buy it next month. I can buy it next week. I can buy it tomorrow. And the truth is they can. But the problem is that you won't necessarily get the credit towards that number one bestseller. So this is really important. It's really the biggest thing that you need to know about becoming a bestseller on Amazon is that it's about how many books sell on a given day. What does it mean to win the race? And now the question is, well, how many books do I need to sell? You told me that I need to sell 20, 30, 40, 50,000 to get into a New York Times bestseller. Well, in Amazon, it just depends on how many books. You know, you might need to sell 100. You might need to sell 200. You might need to sell 500. It depends on the categories that you select, on how many people are in the race and how many books they typically sell. And so you can do a little bit of research to find out which are the best categories for you to get in. We do this for you with Epic Author Publishing, as we look at a lot of the categories in multiple countries, and we help you handpick a dozen or 2 dozen or 3 dozen categories that you can get into. So when you become a bestseller, you do it in multiple categories in multiple countries. And I would target, I try to help my clients do no less than 200 sales is their goal. And typically, if you pick the right categories, that will help you become a #1 bestseller in a lot of different categories. It just depends, though, because you're not going to compete against J.K. Rowling and Tim Ferriss and Stephen King on a given day that they are selling and doing a promotion. So you want to make sure that you enter multiple categories because you know that there's other big players and other running their promotions. And then you might be running against a Carl Lewis, Bolt, whatever his name is, whatever sprinter. So that's about it. You go ahead and to become a #1 bestseller, you got to decide you're going to do it. You got to pick your platform, what race you're going to be in. And you can choose New York Times or you can choose Amazon. I am a #1 international best-selling author with 11 different books, and all of those have been in Amazon, and all of those have been international bestsellers in multiple countries. And it sounds really cool to talk about. And I'm really grateful that we've got the opportunity to do that. And you now have the opportunity to do it. And this is nothing that is impossible. My daughter has 10 #1 best-selling books, and she's 11 years old. And we're about to run some new marketing campaigns to launch her and publish her 3 new books that she has coming out. And they're just in final editing and formatting and whatnot, and it works out really well. So that's all I have for you today. That's bestseller secrets. And if you take that advice, hopefully you'll have a super win and create a #1 bestseller. And if you want some help with that, just reach out to us and ask for help, and we'd love to give you some support. All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow. I got a couple of things I want to share with you that are really important to me. They're personal development wise, but they're really powerful and a little scary. So if you want to check those out, you should follow the next couple of podcasts. All right, later.
To get even more awesomeness, which means all my best stuff, download my app by texting Trevor to 36260. It will show up right on your cell phone. Just text message the word Trevor to 36260. Talk to you soon.